This symphony, like a glass of Imperial Russian Stout, is kind of like a massive meat sandwich in a in a glass.
In a glass, yeah. Classical Rebellion. John, tonight we're headed to Romania.
Oh, no way.
The Czech Republic.
Yeah.
And Mother Russia.
Oh, that covers a lot of ground.
But we have to get there through Long Beach. I mean, San Pedro is a very busy port.
Yeah, well, anything on the 405. Should we hashtag the mayor of Long Beach?
We should. So this is something we're doing at Classical Rebellion. We are
hashtag Long Beach Mayor.
Long Beach Mayor. And the
hashtag Long Beach Mayor.
The idea is that I think the Long Beach mayor wants to be at that symphony concert. And here's why I think the mayor wants to be there. Because classical music aficionados and audiences are very, very loyal. And when you show support for classical music, guess what?
They show support for you.
Exactly. So any politician, any public servant, I'll correct that. I think a mayor is a public servant who does not show up at a symphony is doing themselves a disservice. And you know what? Maybe the Long Beach mayor is going to be at opening night. And if he is, let's take some pictures
and hashtag Long Beach Mayor to Instagram.
Yes, to Instagram. And then we'll all have this great warm feeling of, hey, our public servants are supporting the arts.
Because we've got to have public support for the arts. And it doesn't necessarily even mean money. It means leadership. Yeah. It means show up and tell the community, this is important. Yeah. It's important. I know it's important, and you should know it's important too.
Yeah. Long Beach Symphony Orchestra is starting their season with, this is a name I've seen for decades, but I've never actually heard pronounced.
Neither have I.
Ligeti.
So we went on pronouncenames.com.
Mm-hmm. And it says...
It looks like Ligeti.
Looks like...
But they say Ligeti.
Ligeti.
So do without what you will.
Yep.
I guess it's Ligeti. He's Hungarian.
Yep.
Or was.
Austro-Hungarian. Yes.
Was.
He died in 2006. And I love this piece. It's the Romanian Concerto is the piece that they're opening with. And it's
sort of a concerto grosso, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not exactly
but there's no solo instrument.
There's no solo instrument, so it's really a concerto grosso.
Right.
There's
a few horn solos.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not in the sense that it dominates a movement or anything.
No.
Very interesting piece.
Look, there's actually a theme, a tune that is developed.
No, it's...
And then he comes back to it later. It's like a real piece of music.
It's a very tonal piece.
Yeah. For a composer composing throughout the 20th century, at least mid-century on, it's surprising.
It may not, unless you're in like a really highfalutin music department someplace at university, you may not really realize out there in listener land just how much you risked if you weren't writing for the movies, but if you wrote a classical piece of music that actually purported to have a melody.
You derivative son of a...
Yeah, well, that's about what it was.
Yeah.
You were nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not making dissonance
or minimalism,
you're not making music.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't come along till John Adams in the 1980s.
True.
You know, that's sort of, you know, that at least you can take a chord but do something repetitious with it, like and turn it into something postmodern. But I mean, you know, if it wasn't all about tone color and atonalism, you know, don't write a melody.
Yeah. No melodies allowed.
That's recognizable, not a diatonic melody.
Why would you coddle their ears with a melody? How dare you? Don't you know the atomic bomb has been used? Yeah,
well, I mean...
and not to belittle that.
Society
However, I think society needs more of a sanctuary after such an event than to have it thrust in their face repeatedly by Penderecki.
You're coddling counter-revolutionaries.
What? We're the revolutionaries.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what you would get. And so, to have Ligeti writing... you know, tonal music.
Yeah. It's exciting music. It's got a little bit of
it reminds me of the
klezmer to it.
Well, it reminds me of the yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about Dvorak in the last episode. We talked about the
we're going to talk about him in this episode too.
rich, sweet pastry-like hominess of the Central European woods, right?
Yeah.
That's just what it feels like. And you move down to Romania, and the landscape gets a little rockier, and it's not quite as mountainous and barren. It's a bit more barren. But what you have is starker folk elements. And that's what you hear in. You also have like the Glagolitic, church liturgy. You have the Romanian Orthodoxy, and we hear some sort of quasi church-like chant.
Near the
open
beginning.
fifths, some organum kind of thing. We hear klezmerim. We hear some very active rhythmic devices.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you
a
mentioned
dynamic
it reminded you of Bartók.
Well, it does. It reminds me of the Bartók Romanian dances, which I've actually had a chance to play with a wonderful violinist.
Not saying Ligeti is derivative of Bartók.
No, this is not definitely.
Do not use the D word.
No, this is definitely not derivative music, but it is an authentic expression. I liked what you said about the klezmerim.
Yeah.
Klezmerim is the plural of klezmer musicians, which were the Jewish musicians in village life who played for everybody. They'd play for Jewish weddings, they'd play for Christian weddings, and they'd say, play some of our favorites, and then play some of that great stuff that you guys play. Literally, I mean, they were the functional village musicians. All over Europe, and you hear that.
Yeah. And then we're on to Dvorak in the violin concerto.
You went back, because we talked about the Dvorak Romance in our previous for Monterey, and here we go into the violin concerto, which is massive.
It's the sternest opening I can recall of a violin concerto. It's quite scolding.
Well, he's using like a full symphonic outburst of orchestration to state the main theme, to make the declamatory sentences at the beginning. And man, I mean, it's big. It's really big.
Yeah, it's a full-bodied concerto. And as we listened to it earlier, just kind of get a better feel for it, because it's not
a piece I've ever heard in concert.
No, neither have I. And so that's where I was like, why isn't this more famous? And we have our theories, but I think any audience would be thrilled to hear this instead of hearing Mendelssohn again, or even Bruch. I think it's a wonderful choice.
It's very substantial and very solidly declamatory and assertive.
And there's a lot for that soloist to play.
Oh yeah. It's a difficult part. I also was very interested by the middle movement is just like the Romance. It's got that Dvorak lyricism. But the last movement, we both noticed some Beethovenian qualities about it. It's a very classical piece in its rhetoric.
Right.
And
let's recall that Brahms looked to Dvorak to kind of save things from going off the rails.
I wasn't really aware of that.
Oh no, Brahms was a big Dvorak champion, and he was not happy with a lot, like with Hans Roth. He beat him up, and Hans Roth killed himself. Maybe not because of Brahms, but Brahms didn't help.
Brahms the bully.
Right. And Mahler, he met Mahler and was not thrilled with his music. Schoenberg as well. Richard Strauss. Brahms knew, he's still alive. He's the godfather of that generation, and they're not wanting to be him. But he's looking at Dvorak, and he's like, "Well, this guy's
got form.
Yeah,
he's got classical form,
right.
And it really
and respect
shows
for that form."
It really shows in the concerto, but I mean, some of those. What I mean by there's one place where it decays into unison octave jumps, like bum ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum bum, and that's so Beethovenian.
Beethoven.
It's like it becomes so spare and to the point. Like we are now on this point, which we are about to bounce off of,
right?
But we're going to stay here and make this point.
Yeah,
and that it's just down to one octave note going back and forth, and it's like that's almost, when you get down to it, it's almost abstract.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
It's strikingly modern in its classicism.
Yeah.
Spare, but no, it's a very good. I wish I could be there to hear that piece. I really do.
Well, let's head to Imperial Russia.
Let's go.
Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 5. And I want to say this right away.
I feel like I should be drinking an Imperial Russian stout.
Yes, stout.
A Russian stout, Imperial Russian stout with this symphony. Because this symphony, like a glass of Imperial Russian stout, is kind of like a massive meat sandwich in a in a glass.
In a glass, yeah.
It's a full meal.
It is, and of course the very famous slow movement with that beautiful romantic. Here's the first time I ever heard this symphony live. I was at the Brit Festival in Oregon, Southern Oregon, as just having graduated high school, and I was on a first date with a girl, and this slow movement starts. Just as a full moon is rising over the Cascade Mountains. The Brit Festival was in a forest.
And of course, that was, that was taken from...
It could not have been timed any more perfectly.
And who would have thought that Tchaikovsky would take that from John Denver's song, You Fill Up My Senses?
Right.
You fill up my senses.
Oh, man.
You don't know where these themes are going to come from. Or maybe, did it work the other way?
Maybe worked the other way.
Okay, well, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But, and then, of course... The last movement. Be warned. Do not clap. Don't clap
until you see everyone put their bows down and stand up.
When you see the conductor cut the orchestra off like that, it isn't over.
It's not over. No. But I guarantee you, someone is going to be so wrapped up in it and so carried away, they're going to go, "Bravo!" Oh.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like I don't know if you're familiar with...
And he did it on purpose. Tchaikovsky messed around like that.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it. It's like, I'm going to lure you into this false sense of cadence, and I'm going to make you clap.
The famous pas de deux from the Nutcracker, da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dum, is because someone bet him that he couldn't make a whole piece of music out of just a major scale.
Right.
It's a descending major scale. Do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. That's all it is, and we love it.
Well, I mean, that leads to moments like notably recorded in the finale of the PDQ Bach piece of the Seasonings, where the ship's horn comes in, and it goes wap, wap, and it winds up with this big 5/7 chord, and somebody in the audience goes, "Yeah!"
There is definitely that possibility in the final movement of the Tchaikovsky Five.
Yeah. Because it's that good. It's that good.
It's a thrilling piece of music.
And I mean, followed by the cadence to end all cadences.
Yes.
He is going to...
He makes you think that thing's over 4 or 5 times. And
before he actually lets it end. Yeah. But it's all perfectly proportional, perfectly rhetorical.
Yeah.
It's Tchaikovsky. It's perfect.
Go figure.
Which frustrated his contemporaries, among the 5 Russian nationalist composers, because they thought he wasn't Russian enough. He's too perfect. There's not enough folk in it.
Right. Well, he did love Mozart.
It's perfect, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any chance to hear the Tchaikovsky Fifth, anytime, anywhere, but particularly at Long Beach, go. Get out there.
Classical Rebellion.